From the headquarters of the Guild of Champions, this is the Becoming Thin podcast, and I'm your host, Chris Terrell, and welcome to another week of your weight loss quest. How did this last week go for you, champion? What new challenges did you encounter? But more importantly, what failure did you go through, and what lesson did you get from that failure? Come on now, don't let a perfectly good failure go by without you getting your lesson. That's your reward for your troubles, after all. Now, if you're new here, I've lost 125 pounds myself after an entire adulthood of chronic yo-yo dieting. Up, down, up again. Before I finally got sick and tired of being sick and tired and fat and made some permanent, meaningful, and actual changes to my real-life lifestyle, habits, routines, environment, community, and to my systems of belief. Because it's all 6 of those things that create the results of my life. And if I was going to get new results, I was going to have to go change those same very 6 things. And now I'm here each week to help you get permanent, meaningful, and actual changes in your life by helping you change your lifestyle, habits, and routines into exactly what you want them to be. But we're not going to stop there. You're going to have to look at your community. You're going to have to look at your environment, because these things affect your lifestyle, habits, and routines. But last and definitely not least of all, your systems of belief. Because you see, your community plays a role in what you believe. Your environment plays a role in what you believe. And what you believe plays a role in the habits, the lifestyles, and the routines that you will install into your life. You know, within us, we have these conditioning within our mind. We have these ways of doing things. And something that I didn't fully consciously comprehend was until, 6-7 years ago, and I didn't even really lock it in until the last 3 or 4, is how much of our life we spend operating off of automatic pilot. Let me give an example of what I'm talking about with automatic pilot. If any of you have ever moved in the same town, so in the town I live in, Jonesboro, Arkansas, I went to high school here. There's a house. I haven't lived in this house in 20 years, over 20 years. And I still, about twice a month, without paying attention, will automatically start driving to that house. I'm getting on a certain road. Let's say I'm going to go to the store, which happens to be sort of similar to an old route. And if I'm checked out not paying attention, I will autopilot over to it. About once or twice a month. And I catch myself about halfway there. I'm like, well, I did it again. I was all swept up in a podcast or jamming out to some music or just not fully paying attention. I'm sure many of you could drive your car to the grocery store and just loosely pay attention. You've done that trip so many times. And yet, if you were to go to a new town, just driving down the street would require a lot of conscious energy. You would be paying attention way more than normal. So there's conscious driving and unconscious driving. And our life works very much the same way. There's conscious living and unconscious living. And it's this unconscious living that has a massive impact on the results that we have in our life. Massive, massive impact. This is why so many people struggle with weight loss and they struggle to keep it off, because they go and do something that they don't actually want to do long term. And they use their conscious mind to get themselves to do it, which of course is incredibly taxing. And then whenever they get overwhelmed, whenever they get stressed, what happens? They slip back into their unconscious conditioning, which dictates the choices they're going to make. And it creates a bit of a tension within ourselves. And we'll often say we're self-sabotaging, but really we're not self-sabotaging. I don't actually like the term of self-sabotage anymore. I get it. I know why we use it, and I use it from time to time because it's the vernacular of the people. But I don't actually like it. I don't actually prefer to use it. I think there's more precise language that we could use to talk about what's happening, which is a conflict between two sides of ourselves going on within our mind, and we need to resolve the conflict rather than looking at it as self-sabotage. But I digress. Let's get back to what I was talking about. Conscious, unconscious mind operating off of the automatic. I've been recently posing a question to a lot of people. What does it mean to eat normal? And what's funny is I get a whole bunch of different answers. I don't get a universal answer. But if you really stop and think about it, what does it mean to eat normal? Well, if you eat normal in Japan, that's going to look very different than eating normal in Uzbekistan, which is going to look very different than eating in Taiwan, which is going to look very different than eating in Mexico City, which is going to look very different than eating in Toronto. You see, these different areas, normal is different because all sorts of reasons why it's different. We know this. Well, did you ever consider that your normal way of eating might have been contributing to weight gain? or might have been contributing to you just floating 30 pounds heavier than you'd like to be. What if you changed your normal way of living to a new normal? The thing is, for it to become the new normal, it's not enough just to get your conscious mind to begin doing it. You must also get your subconscious mind on board with the programming so that when you're not paying attention, you're sort of automatically going the direction that you want to go. Consider this. Have you ever, maybe one of you out there listening right now, you're an always late kind of person. You're always 5-10 minutes late. And then finally your boss pulls you in and is like, hey, you're showing up 5 minutes late every day. You gotta stop this. Work starts at 8. I need you here at 8. Come on. You're rolling in at 8:05. Oh yeah, I'll do that. And you do it. And then 2 weeks, you do it for a week or two, and then you're back to doing it again. And the boss is like, come on, we talked about this. Why are you doing it? She's like, I don't know. I mean, it just drifts away, it just gets away from me. And you start trying to do better, then you end up becoming late again. Right? Have you ever, maybe one of you, maybe you're not a late kind of person, right? Maybe you're the kind of person that gets reactive, right? Somebody says something and you tend to just react before pausing and thinking about it. And then a loved one in your life is like, hey, this sudden reaction is very jarring. If you just took a couple of breaths, could you maybe just kind of settle yourself before you talk? And yeah, you're right. I know. I got to stop doing that. I got to stop with this reacting thing, and I'll work on it. And then the person works on it for a week or two. Then something happens and they react again in the moment. It's why'd you do that? I don't know. It happened. It just happened so fast. That's because the unconscious conditioning can just take over in the briefest of moments. Because if the conscious mind doesn't firmly have its hand on the wheel of your life, of the car of your life, the subconscious takes over. It's amazing how you can think you're in the driver's seat of the car in your life. You blink and you're like, wait a minute, when did I get over here to the passenger seat? And what are you doing over there? And, the unconscious mind's like, well, you stopped paying attention. You're like, I stopped paying attention for 2 seconds. I know, but something was happening and it needed to be dealt with. And you seemed busy. So I took over. And that's sort of how the subconscious mind works. When your brain wanders and drifts away, the subconscious creeps in to fill in the gaps here and takes over. And it's working off of this list in its head of what I should or shouldn't do, how I should or shouldn't act. It has all these rules of right and wrong, good and bad, the proper way to do something, the improper way to do something. When someone does this, it means that. When they're doing this, it means this. And when this happens, I should react this way. And when that happens, I should react that way. And the mind's just going off of that. And guess who gave it that list? You. I mean, not just you. It was also the people around you when you were younger. All of these ideas and notions were conditioned into you at the deepest levels. And you see, this is a really frustrating thing about being a human being. Something that I wish I was immune to at times, and I imagine I am not the only person in life wishing I was immune to this. And that is, what happened to me as a kid still is affecting me as a 41-year-old man. Still. I talk to men and women in their 50s and 60s and 70s all the time, every week for years. And you know what? The same thing's happening to them. Stuff that affected them 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago is still affecting them today. Because our mind is this complex thing. And this subconscious part of us can get really frustrating because it's operating off of this internal rule book of how things are and how things aren't. Now, what I think is important when we're talking about this is we're really talking about the concept of the self-image. Now, I'm going to read a section from the book Psycho-Cybernetics. If you're a longtime listener of the podcast, you've heard me read this 12 dozen times. Well, you're about to hear it again. And for those of you that are new, you are going to hear this a lot. This is buried, so when you get a personal development book, something to know is they put the most important stuff deep in the book on page 2 or 3, usually. I'm being a little silly there, but some of the most important stuff is usually in the very beginning because authors know most people don't read more than about the first third of a personal development book. I mean, think about it. I want you to look at it. How many of them have you actually read cover to cover? I'm willing to bet it's not that many. So, but this one's all the way deep in the book on page 2, at least on the copy I have. I think it's on page 2 in the most updated copy. I'm using my older one my dad gave me. But let's read this here. The most important psychological discovery of this century is the discovery of the self-image. Well, technically this was last century, but I digress. Whether we realize it or not, each of us carries about with us a mental blueprint or picture of ourselves. It may be vague and ill-defined to our conscious gaze. In fact, it may not be consciously recognizable at all, but it is there, complete, down to the last detail. This self-image is our own conception of the sort of person I am. It's been built up from our own beliefs about ourselves. But most of these beliefs about ourselves have unconsciously been formed from our past experiences, our success and failures, our humiliations, our triumphs, the way other people have reacted to us, especially in early childhood. From all these, we mentally construct a self. Once an idea or belief about ourselves goes into this picture, it becomes true as far as we are concerned. We do not question the validity, but proceed to act just as if it were true. So you see, in your mind, in your subconscious, you have the sort of person I am. Now, what's really cool is if you record yourself having a conversation and go back and listen to it, you will hear yourself actually spout your beliefs out your damn mouth. And if you engage in journaling, highly recommend it, you will observe yourself spout your beliefs out your damn hand onto the paper. If you go to therapy, you'll hear yourself spouting to your therapist. You can't help yourself. You're going to spout your beliefs out your damn mouth to your therapist. You can't help it. You're not going to be able to stop. Sometimes we get sneaky about it, though. We get real sneaky about it. Like, we don't go around saying, like, well, I'm a victim mentality kind of person. I'm always assuming I'm the victim. A person doesn't go around saying that. They don't do that. They just go around talking about how, like, oh, I was going to do this, but I lost my job. Oh, I was going to do this, but I got so overwhelmed by tracking. Oh, I was going to do this, but my spouse keeps offering me food and I can't say no. It's like all of a sudden everything it's all about these justifications. You see, sometimes our beliefs, we hide them by talking about them instead of talking directly to them, right? And being a victim is one of them. And most people don't want to believe they're a victim, but they do believe they're a victim. Not everybody. Not everybody. I'm not saying you listening do. Maybe you don't. Maybe you do. Maybe you just do it in some parts of your life and in others. That's the other confusing thing about being a person. We can have it together in one part of our life, and in another part of our life, we cannot. Hi, my name is Chris Terrell. That is me. I have parts of my life I'm like, yeah, I've got this under wraps, Locke. Yeah, I'm good. I'd even go far as say I'm a role model in this area of my life. And you go to other areas of my life, I'm like, fuck, no, don't look at me. I am still figuring this shit out. I have no idea. I'm only 41. I got a lot to learn still, right? That life is a lot of little games that you got to learn how to play, right? And I think, is that the way for you? Do you feel like some parts of your life, you have got it on lock? You're like, not only do I have it on lock, I'm a role model. But in other parts of your life, you're like, don't model me unless you want to know what not to do. Is that you? But now it's like, well, wait, you can change. You can change. But how does a person change? How does a person change their conditioning? How do they actually get it to where they can take a part of their life where you're doing so bad at it, you were a model of what not to do, to make it where you're a model of what to do? How do you make that shift? What has to happen? You see, what has to happen is you've got to change your underlying beliefs about yourself. You have to change your system of beliefs. And recognizing, though, that some of those beliefs were implanted into you when you were a little child and you didn't have any means of stopping it. Or you couldn't comprehend what was happening. I love my job. I'm a people person. I love people. I love meeting all sorts. I've never met a person I didn't find to just be wildly interesting. And that's not hyperbole. I actually mean that. Over the course of my life and my career, I've just gotten to meet incredible people. And here's something I've learned that's an unfortunate reality. Some of y'all out there, your parents were, what's the technical term? Human pieces of shit. Like, they're just awful garbage humans. They were terrible parents. They were just rotten human beings. Some of you, that was your parents. Some of you, your parents weren't parents. They were babysitters. They weren't actually parenting you. They weren't teaching you how to be a fully functional adult. They were babysitting you at best and leaving you, a child, to your own devices to try to navigate this very complicated world. Some parents didn't try to insulate you from things that were far too adult for you, that you didn't have the ability to comprehend what was happening because your brain literally wasn't done developing. A 14-year-old is not emotionally grown enough to handle all adult level problems. I don't care how mature the 14-year-old seems. They don't know how to cognitively process things. Because remember, we have logical and emotional sides of us. And so what happens? Sometimes shit happens to us when we're younger and we carry it with us into adulthood and we don't even know we're doing it. We don't even know. How well do you remember all your memories from 6 years old? Did you know that stuff that happened to you when you were 6 could be affecting you now today? Crazy, right? Now, sure, you could dig in, root around in it, figure out what happened, find out whose fault it is. And I think there's a lot of value in doing that. I'm not going to sit here and tell you shouldn't. I'm going to sit here and tell you probably should do that. But the thing is, what are you going to do? Like, okay, you go learn all this stuff. You go find out the traumas from your past. You go find out what your parents did or didn't do. You find out these things. But what are you going to do now? Now what? You've identified you've got a problematic belief structure in your mind. You've identified your brain automatically wants to do something that's problematic in your life. Because that's part of it, right? Like, part of it is just realizing my brain automatically wants to pick answers that makes my life harder. Like, as an example, have you ever heard this one? Those that have been abandoned will abandon others. Those are the abandonment issues. You know what they do? They abandon other people. Why? Because it's a way of controlling. If I've been abandoned, I don't ever want to feel the sting of being abandoned. So I'm going to take control by abandoning anybody that might make me think that they're going to abandon me. I'm going to cut you before you cut me. It reminds me of an example of a story I met from a girl I was trying to date in my early 20s. And she was telling me this story. I still think this is so funny. She was talking about a travel abroad, and she mentioned how she ate some sort of ant live. And I was like, wow, what was that like? You know, it's like this aggressive ant. She goes, it's crazy. You have to bite it before it bites you. And actually, you put it in and chomp down fast. Otherwise, it's going to bite you. And I was like, A, that's crazy. I'm not going to do that. But I've thought about that ever since. Bite it before it bites you. Isn't that an interesting sort of trauma response that a person might pick up, right? Right. So in a person with an abandonment issue, what do? They push others away. Or how about this one with an abandonment issue? When people start getting too close, start getting too emotionally connected, they fear losing it because they've been abandoned. And so they stop letting the person get close and they self-sabotage. Oh, that's interesting, right? You see how this old belief system could be affecting someone in the present? And so, okay, you discovered all this, right? Oh, I have abandonment wounds and I push people away because I have abandonment wounds. Okay, great. You've got all that. Now what? And see, a lot of people, they don't think that far. They don't ever get to this place. They're not stopping and going, great, I've identified the cause, but now what? Well, you got to have a new belief to pick up instead. What is it I want to be doing instead of this? Now, before we talk about that, I want to get into that. So there's a thing that people tend to do when they're wanting to lose weight. And I know this time of year, a lot of people are wanting to get into weight loss, or wanting to change their body, they're wanting to level themselves up. And that is, they're going to go on a diet. They're going to go try to lose weight. And they think this question of like, how do I stay motivated? Look, you don't need to stay motivated. Like if your plan relies on motivation, you just give up now. You're not going to make it because you're not going to stay motivated the whole time. It is impossible. It is not possible. Hear me. You cannot stay motivated the entire time. It is not possible. It's not. So you have to have a plan that doesn't require motivation. Now, one of the things I think that's more helpful to focus on versus how do I keep the motivation high is how do I not quit? How do I not quit? Because ultimately, that's the thing that most of your weight loss journeys that have resulted in you gaining your weight back have in common is you quit. You quit. And if you look at many things in life, that's what gets a lot of us is we quit before we're done. And so this upcoming weekend, now today's January 2nd. So January 3rd, 4th, and 5th from 7 to 9 p.m. Central Standard Time, I'm doing a free workshop, 3 days. I do these every year at the beginning of the year, and I do one in the summer, different workshops. But I'm really looking forward to this one. It's called Why Do I Quit? And it's all about quitting and how do we keep ourselves to keep going. Now, you can find that and register for that by going to whydoiquit.com, whydoiquit.com, totally free. There's also a link in the show notes of the episode. And I'd love to have you come be a part of it. I'm also doing bonus coaching programs all day during the day Saturday and during the day Sunday, which you can take part of. Replays for everything will be made available to people that register for the program. It's totally free. But this is why this is so important is many of you have conditioned yourselves to quit under certain conditions. And so this is an example where we have to break your conditioning. We have to get you to go an entirely different way. So let's come back to that question, right? Like with the abandonment. Like, okay, I see that I abandon I see that I do it because I've been abandoned as a youth. But what do I do now? What do I do now? So this is where I find there's two ways of dealing with a problem like this. There's the learning what happened, and then there's the interrupting the pattern and redirecting yourself. That's so past focused and then present future focused. I said present future because if you get just future focused, you can't change anything because you can't operate in the future. Your brain cannot do anything tomorrow. Your brain only operates in the present moment. So if you're thinking in the future, I'm going to do something, it needs to be in my future now, I'm going to do something. It will always be the you of a present moment that makes the change in your life that gets you the new results. It will never be your future self. It will be the you of the now. And so you can look to your past to inform yourself of what you can do in the here and the now, which is going to mean being present with yourself. So let's say you've identified that you have abandonment wounds. Therefore, you are prone to abandoning people. So what would you do? First is you need to identify your pattern of abandonment, how you abandon people. Now, this is not meant to be a podcast about abandoning. This is not going to be a deep dive about it. I'm going to use it as an example to talk about concepts. So if you're looking for deeper dives on abandonment, that's not what this is. But we're just kind of keep that in mind as we're going through this. I just needed an example that either some of you have experienced or you can conceptually follow, because those of you that don't have abandonment wounds, you might have been abandoned and didn't understand why. And this might be helpful to understand. But let's back up. So you've identified, I have abandonment wounds. I tend to abandon people. What are my abandonment patterns? So you do something that I call retroactive awareness. Retroactive awareness. So it's awareness of something after it happened. You're retroactively looking at what occurred. Now, this is different than like retroactive, like all the way back and back and back to childhood. And so what you want to do is go, when is a recent time I abandoned somebody or something because it was my abandonment wound being triggered, or I thought it was going to get triggered. And so I acted. And you look and you begin to identify the patterns. This is where journaling can be really handy. Taking notes on yourself, or having friends or a therapist or somebody that you externalize what you're happening, so at least they're taking notes on you. And what you then do is you're like, okay, I see that whenever this happens, I push people away. Okay, I see that I'm doing that. Okay, what was I doing right before? What was I feeling right before? What was I thinking right before? And you begin working your way backwards, trying to reverse engineer what happened right before you took the action of abandoning others. You have to retroactively find out what's happening there. And then as you've looked to your patterns, preferably doing this with multiple patterns, right? You're going through life and taking notes on yourself. You're studying yourself on paper. You're studying yourself with others, and you're beginning to create awareness retroactively to your patterns. Then, as you're hopefully simultaneously practicing being present with yourself in life, fully being present in whatever it is you're doing, including your own thoughts and your own feelings, you could begin to go, oh, I'm noticing it. That pattern that I noticed before. Somebody just said something really nice and kind to me, and that started triggering this wound. I felt myself really loving this comfortable feeling of being in this job. I started feeling a bit secure in it. Oh no. As soon as it happens, that hits my insecurity side of me and I start getting worried. Oh, what if this is ripped away from me against my control? And my brain starts filling in all of these stories about what could happen and about how this should be suddenly taken from me and I would be left there all alone. I'm making this up. I don't know exactly what your brain might do. And so you can then see the pattern happening in real time. You can go, oh, I'm doing it right now. I'm doing it right now. Everything inside of me is screaming to do this. But every time I do that, I ended up abandoning people and pushing them away. Every time I do that, I run away from a good opportunity with a job. Every time I do this, I run away from this. I got to stop running away. But it feels so uncomfortable to stay. And you see, this is where it is so important to move towards the things that scare you, that give you anxiety. You see, for far too long in my life, I thought, when something makes me anxious or scares me, I should move away from it. That the anxiety is a signal to move away. No, that's not what that means. That anxiety is there to keep you sharp, to keep you focused. Saying in the past, you have been hurt. Be mindful, be present. Not run away. Because the problem is, as you run away, your brain will tell you to run away even sooner. It'll tell you to run away even sooner. It'll tell you to run away even sooner. If you continually move away from the thing that gives you anxiety, it is going to actually worsen the hold that the thing has on you. You have to begin to move towards it. You have to become comfortable with taking the uncomfortable action. And so you're in this job, your boss just gave you a compliment, as well as a client gave you a compliment. You just got a raise, and you're starting to feel really safe and secure in this job. And you're like, and everything inside of you is like, no, I need to do something to take control. What do you have to do? You have to do the uncomfortable thing, which in this case might mean nothing. It might mean nothing. Or you might be realizing you're getting in your head, and you might need to go talk to somebody about it and get these thoughts out of your mind. Go work through them. You also might need to find yourself a model, somebody that is good at this stuff, and talk to them about it and find out what do they do differently than you? What thoughts do they think? And you could borrow their thoughts. You could borrow their thoughts. Find somebody that doesn't have an abandonment wound and ask them, what do you do when you're feeling safe and secure in your job? What do you do? And you might sit and talk to this person. They say, well, I don't know. I don't really do anything. I don't really think I ever stop and notice it. And you're like, really? Yeah. I don't really ever stop and think about it. Oh, well, why? Why don't you think about it? Like, to me, this is like all I'm thinking about. Like, I'm just so worried that I'm going to lose this job. And then the person sitting there was like, well, why are you worried that you're going to lose this job? And they're like, I don't know. Why aren't you worried you're going to lose the job? I mean, there's no evidence I'm going to lose it. Like, the boss just gave me a compliment. I just got a raise. Like, all the evidence points that the job's going to keep going on and on. Like, isn't that what that means? And you start to have that conversation with the person like, oh, I guess that is what that means. But I'm just afraid. Okay. Is that fear based off of anything happening, or is that fear based off something from your past or something, right? Now, a friend may not think to ask that question, but a therapist might, if you're talking to a therapist, right? A coach or a mentor might, if you find somebody that specializes in this stuff to coach you forward. You see, this is where I do think, let's talk for a moment, the difference between coaching and therapy, because sometimes they get looked at similar. They're really not. Coaching is about coaching you forward, about pushing you forward. And coaching, there's different schools of thought. I am in the school of thought that coaching involves a certain sense of pushing, of challenging. Like if I'm going to go to my football coach, I don't expect my football coach to go, now, what do you think would be the best play here? And then I give a stupid answer, and the coach is like, well, why don't we try that? No, I want the coach to be like, that's not the best answer. I think this is the better answer, and here's why. Like, I want them to help me see it better, right? That's why they're the coach. The coach is there to coach me, to teach me, but also to teach me to rely on myself, right? To teach me my own thinking, to help me level myself up. And so it's not that therapy can't do these things. It 100% can. But you just kind of keep this in mind when you're working on some of these old things. If you're trying to get forward momentum, this is where sometimes coaching can be more beneficial than therapy. I actually think both coaching and therapy go hand in hand really, really nicely, because there's a lot of things that are just not the same and not supposed to be the same. And they're not. There's things your therapist shouldn't do, and there's things your coach shouldn't do, that they need to leave to the other to do. And it's up to you as the person to make sure you're getting the right one. But here I go, digressing again. Let's bring it back to the thread. So when you're going through your life and you have your old conditioning ruling everything that's going on, you create retroactive awareness to the patterns that you are doing that you might say, quote unquote, I know I just said I don't like it, self-sabotaging yourself, which is really just you trying to do the normal, the old normal. Your anxiety says always to push away. Your anxiety always says to react this way. Your anxiety always says to do this. That's your normal default response. And you're going to tell yourself not to do that. You're going to do something called interrupting the pattern. You see, to interrupt a pattern, you have to be aware of the presence of the pattern. And then you have to be taught and learn pattern interrupt techniques. We're not going to have time to get into that in today's podcast. But you learn to interrupt your patterns and redirect yourself down a more empowering pathway to where it is you want to go. And that's a big thing I want to talk about this weekend in my workshop. Why do I quit? We have to interrupt the pattern of quitting when you're on your weight loss journey. So many of you have given up really, really far away from the end. You're nowhere near the end and you're quitting and giving up. We have to work on interrupting the pattern of quitting. Quitting is a pattern. in this case. And if we can identify the pattern, we can interrupt the pattern and redirect you down a more empowering pathway that's going to get you what you want. You see, I don't want you to stop. I don't want you to go on a journey of going, how do I stop losing motivation? No, I want you to go, how do I stop quitting? How do I give up quitting on myself before I'm done? And I'd love to see you at this workshop. And hey, if you're catching this a little late, don't worry. You can join us midstream. Replays will be available. You can get caught up. So if it's Saturday or Sunday or even Monday, you're welcome to come register for the event. And we'll have replays available for you if you missed anything, but only to registrants. So you can register for that by going to whydoiquit.com. That's whydoiquit.com. And I would love to see you there and have you be a part of it. Welcome to 2026, champion. I'm so glad you're here. I want you to really stop and think about your life. I want you to really stop and think about the goals that you have for yourself. Not because of New Year's resolutions or anything like that. Just what are you moving towards? Why not think about it now? Why not? Think about this. Your future can be anything you want. Anything. Your past does not definitively predict the future, and there's always got to be a first time. And what if 2026 was the year that you set off on a journey and you lost the weight for the last time, for the first time? What if that was this year that all began? What if come 2030, you're like, I'm thin, I'm healthy, I'm happy, I'm in shape, and I've been here for a hot minute? What if that happened? And what if it all began in 2026? See you next week on the Becoming Thin podcast.